And as the death toll rises, as pyre after pyre is lined up in parts of the country, there are certain questions that need to be asked tonight. The hard questions. Is the lockdown now, a national lockdown perhaps, the only way to break the chain? Should the lockdown be total or should it be localized? Will the lockdown end up destroying livelihoods? Will lockdowns cause hurt to the economy? Is the lockdown only the last resort? We're now going to look at that critical question which has not been asked. Has the time come to possibly look at a national lockdown? Joining me now, Dr. Shahid Jamil, one of the country's leading virologists. Also joining us, Dr. Giridhar Babu, Professor and Head Life Course Epidemiology at the Public Health Foundation of India. Dr. Vishal Rao is Member Expert Committee, COVID Task Force, Government of Karnataka. Remember, it's one of the states that has today announced a 14-day lockdown. And Madan Sabnavis, Chief Economist, Care Rating. Appreciate all of you joining us because we're going to look at that critical question. Has the time come for a lockdown? Why don't you, as the epidemiologist on the show, Dr. Giridhar Babu, give us your view? Because when I look at these numbers now, it appears with every day that overall numbers are increasing and deaths are increasing. I had Bhramar Mukherjee from the United States last week on my show who suggested India will reach 5 lakh cases a day and the number of deaths will also accordingly multiply. Has the time come, therefore, to look seriously at a national lockdown?
Hi, Rajdeep. I do not think national lockdown is the way to go, mainly because we are simply failing to understand the disease transmission dynamics, where exactly the epicenters are within a state. Just to give an example, if you take Karnataka state, Bangalore is the only place where maximum number of cases are there. So extending the lockdown for the entire state may not be justified when you know where the epicenter is. We are failing to identify these epicenters and containment. So the lockdown is definitely necessary locally at the city level, at the district level, where there is high transmission going on, especially when the health system is unable to cater to the people who require critical care, either in terms of oxygen or in terms of ventilator. We are running out of the capacity. That's when we should be looking at reducing the number of cases so that the health system can cater to those who require it. The second reason why we should have the city or district level is to reduce the speed to levels which can manage in the future. So both these things will have to be carefully analyzed. But this will not happen, Raj. Yeah.
No, are you saying, Dr. Babu, for example, the Karnataka government, which went in for a 14-day lockdown today for the whole state, should have only restricted the lockdown to Bengaluru? Because from all indications, Bengaluru's hospitals are now creaking, are unable to handle this sheer surge in cases. Are you saying it should only be Bengaluru which should have a lockdown, not the entire state?
Yeah, so I believe that we should have city level or district level lockdowns, mainly because the epicenters are generally located around it. 1. 2, I was coming back to the point of improving the testing. So if we do not detect the cases well, if we do not know where the other areas of circulations are, then even if we do lockdown, it will not justify in finding out those who require the treatment and give them. So I think there are two aspects. As we have been saying from the beginning, mitigation means lockdown is only to reduce the speed, whereas containment is the only way where you identify people and ensure that they get the deserving treatment. This is not happening well in some places. That's the worry.
Okay, let's look at for a moment Karnataka, because it's the latest state to have announced a statewide lockdown, and then we'll widen this. Dr. Vishal Rao, your Member Expert Committee COVID Task Force of Karnataka, you heard what was said by Giridhar Babu saying we need localized lockdowns. We don't need a statewide lockdown. Why did Karnataka decide today was the day to go for a statewide lockdown? Do you believe that's the only way to contain this surge which is taking place not just in the cities, it's also taking place now in smaller towns, especially in states like Maharashtra? We've seen Nagpur, Nashik also experiencing surges. So are you saying that Karnataka also faces a similar predicament, which is why the entire state needs to be locked down?
Rajdeep, to add to what Giridhar said, I think the most important thing that we need to acknowledge is that lockdown is a way by which we prepare. and lockdown itself needs preparation. A lot of the planning around this has to be looking at how do we accommodate beds, ventilators, and oxygen, and that's what the city is grappling with today. And at this juncture, I would agree with Giridhar that a lockdown at this juncture is a way to break the chain, and as well as it is a way by which we can plan things better to accommodate the raging numbers. Today, for example, we have had about 1,500 patients in the ICU in Karnataka. Now, for me, that itself is a concerning number because last September in the peak, we had about 800 plus. So if you look at the numbers now, the numbers are doubled and the oxygen demand is doubling. So for me, that's a greater concern at this juncture. And the lockdown, I think, is a very important signal given by the state government to the citizens that, look, at the end of it, this is all that the governments can do, raise awareness and increase enforcement. Now, the highest level of enforcement by any government can be a lockdown, but at the end of it, it is the responsibility of the citizen to maintain their socio-economic zones and run it like how we were running a hospital or a clinic. So how did I remain negative inside my OPD, in my operating room, being negative? And that's the plan that they have to adopt, which is mask, well ventilated indoors, social distance, hand hygiene. I think there's nothing else other than that. And addition to that, vaccination. And I believe the vaccination chain is going to suffer because of the lockdown. And we will need to plan strategies to continue doing vaccination while we are on lockdown.
That's an interesting point you're making, that the vaccination chain could be affected by having harsh lockdowns. Dr. Jamil, your sense, because I remember you've always been a critic of lockdowns, but do you believe this double mutant, the kind of numbers that are now coming out, necessitate perhaps seriously reconsidering the option of a lockdown now?
Well, I do agree with Giri and the other gentleman who was just talking that nationwide lockdown is not going to serve the purpose. We need more local lockdowns, lockdowns in areas where there is high transmission. Last time when we went for a national lockdown, we've seen what a disaster we caused to the livelihoods. And remember, if you reduce the private cost of illness, or if you increase the private cost of livelihoods, people are not going to comply. So it's very, very important that we maintain a balance. And further, areas where there is going to be a lockdown, there has to be adequate arrangements for people to get food and supplement their incomes. There, 80% or so of India's labor force is in the informal sector. There are people who earn daily and eat daily. Lockdowns have immense effect on this population, and if there is going to be a trade-off between wearing a mask or getting your next meal, guess what somebody will choose? So I think for compliance, it's very important that we keep people in mind and not turn ourselves into a law and order establishment, a police state. So that trust is very important.
But Dr. Jamil,
Go ahead.
Dr. Jamil, the concern, of course, is that the concern, Dr. Jamil, is that in the unless you have these strict lockdowns in place, they are easily violated. We've seen this happening in state after state. Even as we speak, for example, Goa, which has night curfew, the casinos are continuing. And then you start asking, how many exceptions are you going to make to a rule? The question, and Goa now is again struggling with its numbers, small state though it be. I want to understand, therefore, in the Indian scenario, isn't a lockdown the only way to ensure compliance? Otherwise, people will not comply with the rules and regulations. And with a double mutant strain that seems immune, according to some, to existing perhaps antibodies, what happens then? What do you do in such a situation? And the point made just now that the vaccine program could suffer possibly as well.
Yes, the vaccine program will suffer because of lockdowns. You already see that the rate of vaccine delivery over the last few days has dipped. So, I think it's firstly, it is important to keep these things in perspective. Yes, the double mutant or the 617 variant is spreading faster, and so is the UK variant. That's not the only variant that's spreading. These are more infectious, but to say that they are completely evading antibodies, that would not be correct. It's just that the strains are so infectious that earlier, when only one person in a family was getting infected, now whole families are getting infected. And this has led to tremendous strain on the healthcare system. I agree with all that. But, it's very difficult to put the entire onus on individuals who are not complying. On the other hand, what individuals have been seeing every day is that their tallest leaders, people they look up to, are gathering hundreds of thousands of people in one place. So what message are we sending? It's very important to send the right message. You can't just arbitrarily lock down people and continue to do what you have been doing.
Right. So you're saying part of the problem is that there has been a leadership problem, that the leadership has not, in a way, walked the talk. And therefore, now to expect people to observe harsh lockdown rules when the leadership has failed to do so, particularly at election time, and the Madras High Court was rather scathing today, you're saying it should have started with the leadership. Am I correct, Dr. Jamil?
Well, yes, leaders have to lead from the front and lead by example. And I'm not saying this party or that party. Right. I think it's across the political divide. The problem is elsewhere.
Let's come to the economics of the lockdown, Madan Sabnavis, because there are the worries that the moment you mention this word lockdown, people get memories of what happened between April and June last year. The economy collapsed and we are still reeling under some kind of recessionary pressure even now a year later. Is that the fear? That's why even the Prime Minister was very cautious in his speech a few days ago, saying lockdown is the last resort. Now, this is the same person who a year ago said, I'm locking down the country in 4 hours. Do you believe that our policy makers are worried about the economic fallout? And how harsh will be the economic fallout, Mr. Sabnavis, if there is a second lockdown now?
We had seen last year that when the lockdown was imposed at a national level, we had very few cases in the country. We had gone in for a lockdown because I think all countries were doing, and it looked very sane that the only thing we have to do is to have a lockdown. But if you look at what happened in the months of April and May, I think economic activity came to a standstill. Not only did people lose their jobs, not only was the supply of goods and services affected, but also the government revenue started getting affected. So that's when we started off with the process of unlock. So while there's a lot of merit in saying that we need to have lockdowns to make sure that the transmission doesn't take place, but it's also true that we don't have an alternative system where the government is able to provide sustenance for a large population and even sustenance for its own revenue. So that's why we went in for an unlock at a time when the cases were actually going up. So if I come to the current situation, we already have thought of a lockdown. And let's look at Maharashtra. That's where I stay in Mumbai, where we've seen that the cases reached around 50,000, 60,000 per day, where we've had the lockdown. And at that point of time, maybe there were around 1 lakh cases a day. Today, we're talking of something like 3.5 to 4 lakh cases a day. Now, I'm not quite sure if by having a even state-wise lockdown, but it sounds to be a very good thing. That's the only way we can stop the spread of the infection. But it actually has helped to reduce the numbers, because we're seeing sequentially states are joining one after the other. After the elections, after the Kumbh Mela, we are seeing more cases being detected, and there are more lockdowns coming in. Now, we have seen, for example, based on just what happened in Maharashtra, and certain lockdowns announced in places like Bangalore, Delhi, Jaipur, Indore, our own calculation was that for a 1 month lockdown, that is something which goes to April and a part of May and probably opens up only in the month of June, we could be losing something like 1% of GDP. Now, that's a fairly high number, but I don't really think that things are going to come to an end in May end, and things could actually spiral and go further into June, July. So there's going to be a lot of economic hardship. And I think what the government realizes at the national level is it's just not possible for the government to support the economy on its own. We didn't see too much of help coming from at the national level last year too. There were lots of policies which are probably positive, but in terms of actual cash transfers, ensuring jobs, that was not done. And even today, if you look at Maharashtra, lots of promises have been made. You talk to a street vendor and ask him whether he's gotten his 1,500 rupees. The answer is no, I don't know what to do about it. So I think there is a problem that I don't think administration is in a position to support. So therefore, there are going to be more kind of localized lockdowns, and we're just hoping that the chain breaks at some point of time.
But you see, if you look, Dr. Giridhar Babu, at Maharashtra's case, Maharashtra now, for the first day today after weeks, has dropped below 50,000 cases a day, the latest numbers we're getting. So clearly, if you have a lockdown and then enforce it and allow it to sustain for a couple of weeks, it can have an effect. It is the only way, it seems, to break the chain at the moment. So why the reluctance then to say, well, you know, we need the lockdown because the health infrastructure system cannot handle the rise in cases. And now it's no longer just the big cities, it's spreading into certain districts also across the country, very populous districts.
Yeah, Rajdeep, I think we'll have to take step by step. I do consider lockdown as a lazy policy option. If you are unable to act in time, act at multiple opportunities to prevent the formation of such large clusters, then lockdown will definitely become the only option available. So we have sort of squandered all these opportunities in multiple ways in all through the country, not just one state or the other. The second aspect is as much as the lockdown has helped, in Maharashtra's case, the way the triage system is happening, the way people are shifted where the care is required in terms of critical care, that is a very streamlined process in Mumbai and other places that we are seeing now. This is what is needed to save lives. Lockdown alone is not sufficient, even when it is done at a later opportunity, when we have missed so many opportunities. And finally, let's the cases go, and then once it becomes beyond our control, let us impose lockdown. Might also be some of the thinking the other states might be doing. So it should not be an easy option to let the cases grow and some lives to be lost and impose a lockdown. So I have a mixed views on lockdown.
You have a mixed view, but across the world, Dr. Rao, we are seeing that more and more countries are going in, have gone in the last 6 months for second lockdown. That these are smaller countries, smaller than India, much smaller than India, especially in Europe. Where is the hesitancy? Why am I sensing amongst all of you a hesitancy to go ahead with the lockdown? What is the alternative policy? I want to understand, Dr. Rao. Karnataka is doing a 2-week lockdown. What if the cases don't come down after 2 weeks? Do you go in for another 2-week lockdown?
So, Rajdeep, I think the fundamental thing we need to acknowledge is this virus is new to our immune system. We either get exposed to this virus through an infection or through a vaccine. Now, the question is that it is the onus of the citizens and us to ensure that we remain negative. At this juncture, even a lockdown that is being done is only to be a quick preparatory phase to ensure that we are able to triage beds, we are able to prepare better, but nothing better than that, because at the end of it, again, vaccination is going to be the only mantra we have right now to ensure that we do not lose lives. And I think the priority of every government at this juncture should be to reduce crematorium and to save lives. And that can only happen through vaccination. And that's the only data we have, I think. So in my view, through this entire episode, while we are doing lockdown and breaking the chain, I think the ramping up of vaccination is the key mantra now.
So, but we are not vaccinating fast enough, Dr. Rao. That's the other problem. We are not vaccinating. Over the weekend, there were no vaccines in Mumbai. Mumbai had no vaccines. The vaccination program came to a virtual halt in Mumbai on Sunday. It's only resumed today. So you've got vaccine shortages at one level. You've got all this debate taking place over pricing of vaccinations. The promise of vaccinating all from May 1st is unlikely to be met given vaccine shortages. And you've got a reluctance to impose the lockdown fully. So a half-hearted lockdown and a half-hearted vaccine program, surely, Dr. Rao, isn't the solution.
I agree, Rajdeep. I think that's why I think there has to be a cohesive approach in this. in order to create a quick balance, and where we look at health of the economy as well as the health itself of the people, and work towards vaccination. Vaccination for me is the final answer to this, to protect ourselves, because our immune system somewhere has to get exposed. And in this, as you rightly pointed out earlier, the double mutant is a big concern. And if the further mutations occur, that's something that we are at the blind side right now. And I've been talking about looking at monitoring genomics very closely in our viruses to understand what the Indian new mutations looking like. That will protect us from the third or the fourth wave also.
You know, Dr. Jamil, you're one of India's leading virologists. Is there a genuine fear that the vaccinations are not working as effectively on this new variant? Could that be a genuine fear? And do you fear that if this vaccination program slows down, then we are in really serious trouble now?
No, certainly we'll be in trouble if the vaccination program slows down. The trouble is that people believe more in WhatsApp messages than what experts tell them. Look, yes, this is a new variant. We already know that the vaccines are effective against the UK variant. We already have early results that the 617 variant, which some people call the double mutant, some call the Indian variant, in early tests, it is showing neutralization by the serum of people who have been vaccinated. So please believe in that. Don't just go crazy on WhatsApp circulations. And remember, every vaccine has claimed that it will prevent severe disease and mortality. That's what we want. No vaccine has claimed that it will prevent infection. And most people are unable to understand the difference between infection and disease. And therefore, the hesitancy, the main reason for hesitancy that I see is, so-and-so got a vaccine but still got infected. Without realizing that if you were vaccinated, that might actually save your life. So, vaccination
So are you
is
saying
important,
that the entire policy focus, Doctor, are you saying therefore, Dr. Jamil, the entire policy focus in the next few weeks and months should be on accelerating this vaccination program to new levels? That's the real challenge that we have. Yes, we have temporary problems at the moment, like oxygen supplies, for example, in the national capital, but the real challenge is to accelerate, double, triple the rate of vaccinations over the next 2 months.
Yes, that is important to do, but do realize that if somebody starts taking the vaccine tomorrow, they will not get full protection for at least 6 to 8 weeks. So this will take its time. Our time to really alter the course of the second wave from by means of vaccination is over. The vaccines that we take now will help us in the third wave. And I don't know when the third wave will be or what the magnitude will be, but that's where it will help. But let's get on with it. In the meantime,
you're saying something very important, Doctor. You're saying vaccinate. You're saying something very important, Doctor. You're saying vaccinate to save ourselves from the third wave. This is not about the second wave. This is about the third wave.
No, look at it logically. All models say that this particular wave is going to last for another 2 months or so. When the peak comes, I don't know. But somebody who starts taking a vaccine tomorrow will take 6 to 8 weeks to get full protection. So yes, whatever little protection you get after one dose will be there. But effectively, vaccination start today is going to show its effects only in 6 to 8 weeks. Therefore, it is very important to send out this message that don't worry about this mutant or that mutant. Every mutant can be protected by proper masking. And we are forgetting this very, very basic fundamental principle. We are worrying ourselves sick with this mutant or that mutant and will not wear a mask. That doesn't seem logical at all.
Very, very powerful message that you've sent out. In conclusion, Mr. Sabnavis, you're the economist on the panel surrounded by these doctors. Would you or any economist today even think or consider the implications of a lockdown, or is this something that is the worst case scenario for the Indian economy at the moment, the prospect of an extended second wave that goes into June, July?
No, I think these lockdowns which we're seeing, as I mentioned earlier, we are seeing sequential lockdowns coming in different states. And the important question is that when will these lockdowns really end? So in Maharashtra, we all know that on May 1st, we'll be waiting for the government to take a decision. They'll probably have a lockdown for another 15 days. And if the numbers still seem to be high, you need to have another further extension. So I think these lockdowns are going to be a fairly painful process. They will go on for at least 2 to 3 months, somewhere or the other in the country. The only gratification is that it's not happening at a national level. So they, in a way, we'll say, okay, there is free movement of goods and services across the country. The economy should not be battered as much as happened last year. But there is definitely going to be a lot of hurt in terms of the economy, with various segments getting going underneath.
Okay. I've heard 4 very clear voices, and I think the message is very clear. We're going through a second wave, but it's time to prepare possibly for a third. So the age of complacency is clearly well and truly over. Thank you all very much for joining me on my top talking point here today. Now,
hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.